Okay, so so if you're working on a book and you have you're within a collection that has the Bloom Enterprise subscription enabled, whether it's an actual paid one or for a local community, you do have the options to add a page, which is a quiz page. This is an interactive activity with a question and some answers. And yeah, if you have a paid Bloom Enterprise subscription, then you can keep track of the averages. So I'm just going to add one page. So yeah, so at the top it says check your understanding, but if you're using one of the other major languages, it's already got it translated, or you can translate it. Okay, so so the first line, you type the question. Just as an example. Okay, so and then, yeah, if you don't have like 6 to choose from, then you can leave them blank. But then the way that you determine whether it's the correct answer is that you actually check the box beside it. So this would be a quiz page within my book. And so the question would appear at the end of the book, and then people would be given an option to answer it. Let's see if it actually shows up in the Bloomreader preview. So okay, so the text language is English, which wasn't selected initially. Yeah, so Bloom will actually show, if you're publishing to the BloomLibrary, it will actually show whether whether all the text boxes are completed for that language. Okay, so here is what the quiz would look like. And yes, so I don't know that we can actually, yeah, we can do that in the preview. So if you check the correct box, then it will have the bell sound. Otherwise, it will have the other option. But as you can see there, it's actually, if you're choosing one of the wrong answers, it's actually graying it out. So so eventually you'll just be left with one, which is the correct answer. Yeah, so that check your understanding. Yeah, so you can actually put something different. So by default, it's check your understanding in English, but you might want something else. So you might want questions. And this could be in multiple languages or just one particular language. So here we've got two boxes, but you could have it so that you don't have the English on that page. Yeah, so that's one feature that is available within the Bloom Enterprise subscription. And yeah, so it's a feature that you may like to use. But it's obviously only available when you've got the digital books. Okay, so now look a little bit further at the Bloom comics, and then I'll actually show the Bloom program and how you actually do it there. So just a short video here.
In our previous video, What's New in Bloom 4.7, we introduced Bloom Comics. And now I'm sure you're wanting to move ahead and start creating some comic books. However, before we get started in earnest, it's important that we just go over a few key differences between Bloom comic books and Bloom basic books. This won't take long, but understanding these differences will set you up for success and will save you from potential frustrations down the road. So the first thing to notice is that Bloom comic books have a different layout than Bloom basic books. In a Bloom basic book, images and text occupy separate spaces on the page. Basic books have a variety of page templates. These templates have one thing in common. The text is always separate from the images. Or in the case of this template, there's just a picture. And in this one, just text. And while Bloom allows me to change how much space the image and the text use, the key thing to understand here is that the image and the text do not share the same space. Another thing to see here is that a basic book has a margin of white space all around it, at the sides, and at the top and bottom. Finally, at the bottom of the page, there is a page number. All of these things are by design so that all Bloom basic books can be printed on paper as well as published digitally. In contrast to Bloom basic books, a key feature of Bloom comic books is that the text is put on top of the images. In other words, text and images occupy the same space. Although speech bubbles and captions can be added to any Bloom book, most users take advantage of Bloom's new digital comic book template. This template sets up a 16:9 landscape book with no margins and no page numbers. The image occupies the entire page, and the comic text elements, speech bubbles and captions, are put on top of that full-page image. Because the digital comic book template creates a book with no margins, Bloom comic books are not intended for printing on paper. Instead, Bloom comic books are designed to be published to your device or published to the BloomLibrary website.
Okay, so Bloom, just get out of this. So, okay, so back to Bloom. So that's the comic book tool. Now I'm going to actually show what it actually looks like in Bloom itself. So there's the digital comic book tool. There is actually a paper comic book tool as well. So if you're wanting to do something similar, but a text in bubbles or overlay on the page. And when you click on the digital comic book or the paper comic book, there will be some details that you need to take note of. For example, with the paper one, it's only available for one particular language, so you can't have multiple languages in the comic book. That is, you can have multiple languages with the digital comic book, but you will need to so there's only one version of bubble size and placement is stored in the book. But each time a comic is used for different languages, the bubble size and the locations need to be adjusted. So if you created a digital comic book and, for example, it was in English, then you would work on the English one, but then you will also have a copy. You could also make a copy and create an example of Spanish or the language. And yeah, so some notes about updating or adapting existing comic images, and then some tips for the overlay. Okay, so now just with the normal basic books, we'll just click make a book using this source. Okay, so here you'll see that instead of the white background, you actually have a black background. So there's the same details. So you've got the book title, you've got the picture options, but here, if you're adding a picture, do one from my computer. So you do need to consider the size of your picture. So this one is not, well, the device size is 16 by 9 landscape. So it's helpful if you have an image that's similar to that. And then, so you add a page. The options here are, the one that you would normally use is the digital comic book. You do also have the quiz page option. So full page image with no margin. And don't know that I have a image. Yeah, that one. Yeah, so you'll see it has increased a little bit, but you may need to, if you're using the digital comic book and you've got one image, you may need to edit the image or the proportions before you actually paste the image into Bloom. So here is my image, and in a normal, like a paper book or like a blank book, you would just have the text box options. Here you actually have the overlay tool. You can have this flower, which means another image. So you could have an image over the image. Yeah, and this question mark here is because I don't have the copyright information added to the image. Yeah, so, and the advantage here is you can move any of these boxes or overlays around. There is an option for a video, which is more used for like sign language videos, but it's still an option there. And then if you've added something but you're wanting to delete it, then just click on it, and then over on the right here, there'll be the delete option. So there have been people, like including some from Asia, Pacific, who've asked for different features. So for example, you want a text box that's got a background. So that's now available with this comic overlay tool. In the normal text boxes in the basic book, you've got a couple of background options. So I think a couple of light grey options. But here you actually have, you've got the whole color palette available for the background. And there is options for the text color as well. Yes, so I'll just put here. So this, it's slightly off the page, so I can move it. And there's actually, yeah, you've got some settings here. You've got the styles, you've got the paragraph options, indenting, centering. But you can also, see. Yeah, so by clicking on the end of the tail of the bubble, then you can actually move it around to a different place. And yeah, as you type more text, the text gets, the box or the speech bubble gets bigger. Yeah, so you can actually manually change the size of it, but you can move the tail, and by adding more text, you can change the size. There's also the caption option. So this is like similar. Yeah, so it's instead of a speech bubble, it's a caption. So it could be that this may be a part of the page that you're not actually recording. And just as it shows in the basic book, if you've got too much text, it will show, and you can actually change the size of the text box. And yeah, so if you use the caption option, you can change the size. If it's the actual text box option, you can't actually change the size. And yeah, so here you've got options, show the tail. So this is a caption, but it could also have a tail, which on a caption is just the straight line. There's rounded corners. Again, you can change the text color and the background color. And also you might want, there's a couple of options for outlines. But one thing to note, you can't actually change the width, the width of the border. And yes, so also with the, yeah, so by default, the speech bubble has got the tail, but you can take it off. So the different types of bubbles or boxes you can create, there's the speech bubble, which I've got here. There's the caption. There's an exclamation, which actually puts it, makes it look like an exclamation, and yeah, that can have the tail as well. There's also, it could be just text, which is no box, or you could add a box, but yes, so just text is no box. The speech bubble, which is what we had, and now this actually has an outline color. Ellipse, yeah, no, take the tail off. Yeah, so yeah, so then you do have the options. You've got transparent options. And yeah, you can also add a child bubble, which, oh yeah, so there's a child bubble, which could be connected to that. It shows better if you have a speech bubble. Yeah, so it could be something, and the next comment that the person makes. And oops, also it could be a thought bubble. I need to have take off the child bubble. Okay, so background color. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so this is, if I add a child bubble, this one up the top there. I can delete it by just clicking on it and the delete. And then the thought bubble. Yeah, so, and this tail, once you've clicked on it, you can actually move. Should be able to move the tail. Yeah, move it. Yeah, so it looks like with the thought bubble, you don't have as much freedom for moving. You can't actually move the tail. Yes, we can. Yeah. Yeah, so sometimes you may need to click on it, click off it, and then click it again for it to show. But if you had like a different color, it may actually show up better. You can easily find the end of it. Yeah, so yeah, so there's so there's overlay tool, and you have these different style options. Some you can have a border or rounded corners. Others you're limited in what you can change, but that does solve the issue that some have asked for, with actually adding color. So more than just black text, and actually adding backgrounds to the images. Okay, so my suggestion is that you just spend time just playing around with the overlay tool. If you don't have a Bloom Enterprise subscription for your organization, you just want to play around with it, then you can just select the local community option. But just be aware that if you're actually publishing something, then you will need an actual Bloom Enterprise subscription to, yeah, if you're wanting more than just the local logo or the SAL logo on the end of it. So once you have a book in Bloom, like we have here, then if this one was ready for publishing, which it's not, then you would just go to the publish page, and you'll notice that the PDF options, you only have the simple option. So you've got the EPUB, the Bloomreader, and sharing on the web. I just have another short video which explains a bit more about the publishing.
In our remaining time, let's walk through the process of publishing this comic book to my Android phone. First, I download and install the Bloomreader app. I open the Google Play Store and type Bloomreader in the search bar. I install it and open it. The Bloomreader app then opens with a sample book. At the top of the app, there are 3 horizontal bars. I tap them to see some options, and I tap Receive Books from Computer. My phone is now ready to receive books from my computer. Meanwhile, in the Bloom program, I can now initiate publishing my book to the Bloomreader app. Bloom provides 3 options for Bloomreader publishing. Because my phone and computer use the same Wi-Fi network, I choose Share over Wi-Fi. Typically, this is the easiest option. At this point, your antivirus program may request permission. Since I know that Bloom is a safe program, I click Allow Access. The BloomReader app receives the book from the computer and then sounds a bell once it's done. I can then click OK to close the Receive function. Likewise, I can now stop publishing the book from the computer. It's time to open my book and enjoy its content. Since the digital comic book template uses landscape orientation, I need to turn my phone sideways to read it.
Okay, so that's publishing to the BloomReader. It can be done over Wi-Fi or USB, or there is also the option, if you click on the BloomReader option, yeah, you do have the option to save a BloomReader file. So this may be that you're wanting to make the file available, just share it on maybe an SD card, or it could be that you're wanting to put it on a website and making it available there. Yes, so that will actually save it as a file. And yeah, there's the share over Wi-Fi option, or send over USB. Just a thing to note with the USB that some USB cables may just be for charging. So if you have one of those, you may not be able to actually transfer the data. Or there may be settings on your phone that you need to modify. But the easier option is to share over Wi-Fi or to save the BloomReader file. But there is the USB option. Okay, I'll just go to the BloomLibrary again, and here on the BloomLibrary, you can see that if you're wanting to just see how the different features are used, here's some comic books. Yeah, so Bloom makes it easy to create professionally looking books. So during the COVID time, there has been a lot of books that were getting translated, COVID related books, and that was probably one of the first major projects that used the comic book feature. So just go to the English version of that, if I can find it. Yeah, so there's a couple of different books. This is the about coronavirus book. Okay, so click on this to read. And you may have actually seen this or translated it into your own language. Yeah, so this is using, not so much using a large colored picture in the background, but the options of having multiple pictures on the page. Yeah, and something like this wouldn't be easy to create with the basic book layout, but these boxes, these text boxes here are just separate text boxes, which are, and separate images here. But so, yeah, so the comic book that was shown on the video, but then there's some others here, like, let's see, knock knock, surprise.
Knock knock. Surprise.
Yeah, so some of these do have the audio, so you might want to turn it off, but yeah, so this is a book. It looks like it may have been an actual printed book that they have got permission to use. So you'll see some of the pages have got this rounded box. Knock, knock, knock. Yeah, so different styles. So the advantage is that you can actually put text boxes over the images. Yes, and then the end. Yeah, so at the end, you can see who actually wrote the book, and the illustrations, the images, and yeah. So if you're wanting to see some good quality books and be able to see what can be done within Bloom, I suggest you look at yeah, so down at the bottom of the listings in the Bloom Library, there is organizations and governments. So Education for Life in Papua New Guinea have got a lot of full color books. Some of them are available for translating. So they actually have a Bloom Enterprise subscription, which allows them to have the separate bookshelf here. But then you also have Book Dash, Pratham Books. These are organizations that have their own websites with their own books, and they have been made available for translation in Bloom. But here's another, yeah, the activities. So books with simple comprehension quizzes. So it may be just a quiz about the story, names of the fruit in English.
Fruit.
Okay, so it's got each of the fruits, but so this comprehension page can actually go in any section of the book. It doesn't have to go at the very end. Okay, so then that's the basic comprehension quizzes. yeah, so you can use these. Yeah, and I see there is a note in the chat about some of these Education for Life books. This isn't one of them, but some of the PNG Education for Life books, you do need to, well, any of the books that you're looking at here, you do need to check the copyright information. So like some of the books may have restricted copyright information. You can usually see, yeah, so it's got a custom license. So if you click on that, so this is Global Recordings Network book. So it can be translated and it can be distributed, but before you're translating it, you need to get permission by writing to that email address. And if you download the book, then you can get the full email address. Yeah, so, and then I think some of the PNG books, I think, are restricted for use in PNG only. There is a feature which is fairly new, and yeah, people are just starting to learn about it. And this is books with widgets. You actually need another program to make these activities, but it is so one of the other programs is Active Presenter, which you, to be able to create the HTML widgets, you have to have a paid version of it. But if someone already has Active Presenter, or they have the ability to create widgets or small activities, I'm just finding the colorful butterfly. Yeah, so this has actually got sign language on it as well. So it's actually got the image, it's got that, and then somewhere at the end it may have the widgets. Yeah, so it's got comprehension questions at the end, but it's created in a more interactive way. So you can actually show in a more interactive way if they've got the right answer. Yeah, so it's the incorrect answer, so it's the X. And then if you got it wrong second time, let's try again. Okay. Waterfall maybe, yeah. But these images here, these widgets, you need to create these in another program. They can't be created within Bloom. But yes, but that option is available. Just stop sharing. Yeah, so that's one of the newer features, which I thought I'd just show. But within Bloom itself, the only sort of interactive things you can create are the comprehension questions. There is a couple of questions in the chat. Can books, this is with the Bloom Reader, can books be shared among devices connected via Wi-Fi to a local server that's not connected to the internet? Yes, they can be. So if they're both on the same Wi-Fi network, for example, some of the people in Indonesia may remember I did a workshop there when the internet wasn't working. Internet was down. So we were able to transfer through local Wi-Fi. So there is an option in the Bloom Reader to share. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, so you can share the Bloom Reader app. Yeah, so, and yeah, you can receive books, and you can actually get the books. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, so if in the Bloom Reader you actually click on a book, then there is the option to share the individual book. And yeah, so any of the normal sharing options, yeah, they're available. So it depends on what is actually available within your network. And yeah, so another question here is, can the questions on the quiz page be recorded? Yes, they can. So yeah, so just in the same way that any of the text in the book can be recorded, then the text for the question page can be. And as you saw in one of those Education for Life books, they'd added the sign language video. So that's another feature that's available if you need that as well. There was a question, another question about, does an SIL-OU or organization unit have automatic access to Bloom Enterprise? You can, there is an SIL code that you can enter, but that will actually, it will show the SIL logo, I think on the title page of the book. So that can't be changed, and then possibly on the back of the book. But if you're wanting something that doesn't have the SIL logo, then you would need to request it. But yeah, there are different agreements for different organizations. And so there may be, depending on the organization, there may be something already set up that your organization could get something for free, or just cover the cost of including your own logos. But yeah, so if you're wanting to use the SIL logo, SAL International logo, then that's available.